Welcome back, Tiger fans. We're here for the Round 16 Tigercast Player of the Year votes. And this week, we're not showing you the leaderboard. The leaderboard will now be removed from the show, and we will reconvene on that later in the year when it starts to get a bit close at the end of the season. Well, hopefully it gets close. But we will read out the votes for this week, EJ, and it can be tough going against the games where you have big losses. But I still feel like there was a couple of players who did stand out on their own merit that hopefully get rewarded accordingly.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a long season, it's a tough season, but we're still looking for the bright lights, and there's a couple of young people I thought that stood up really well on the weekend. So
They did. And with that said, we'll jump over to the votes, and I think and hope we will see one of those names at the top of a lot of the lists here. So for the 5 votes, Tiggs went for Ben Miller. I thought he had a reasonably solid 2.5 to 3 quarters, but Thilthorpe did monster everyone in the last quarter. But Miller with the 5 there. CB went for Dion Prestia with 5, and Dion did have a good game. And then Grok, myself, and yourself, EJ, all went for Sam Banks for 5.
Yeah, I think he's growing before our eyes. I really like his decision making. I think he's found his slot just behind the ball. And how many metres gain did he have again, Michaels?
822 metres gained for Banks.
Huge game.
Massive game. He's very consistent as well, and used the ball well, got a goal to go with it. And like you said, I think he's playing that role at a really good level now, and hopefully he can keep building on it as the year gets on and into next year. The 4 votes, I went for Dion Prestia, CB went for Jack Ross, Tiggs went for Sam Banks, and yourself and Grok also went for Dion Prestia with the 4 votes.
Yeah, I thought our mids in the main were patchy, but Dion was really consistent. Actually, when I say our mids, I thought that Hopper and Taranto were patchier, even though some of Hopper's numbers were okay. I thought from an effectiveness point of view that Dion had more impact on the game.
I think it's a fair enough call. He's had a pretty good return, to be honest, hasn't he? So credit to him for putting up some good numbers and having an impact. Not sure about the midfield mix, but that's a topic for a different time. For the 3 votes, I went for Jack Ross. I thought Rossi, that was one of his better games again, sort of similar areas to what he was doing against the Blues in round 1. And it's no surprise that's on the back of him having some more centre bounce attendances. I think he ended up with 9 clearances, which is a really, really good result. And I think that sort of, for me, says that he has to play more often in the middle because he does his best work there. CB went for Sam Banks. Grok went for Tim Taranto. Tiggs went for Dion Prestia. And for your 3 votes, you went for Nathan Broad.
Yeah, I'm disappointed to see CB with Banks down at 3. The only person to have him lower than 4 votes. It's sad. I thought both Broad and Vlosten were okay. I thought Vlosten was actually hampered by the tag a little bit, and I thought Broad was able to impact going forward as well as negating a lot of contests. And goodness me, there were a lot of contests in the gate down back on the weekend. I think Broad and Vlosten have both had Broad, Vlosten and Miller have all had really, really solid years in the face of an absolute avalanche.
100%. You can't just look at the score and just assume it was their fault. They do so well under so much duress. And if it wasn't for them as a collective 3, it would have been real ugly in a lot of other games. So, and Broad even wound back the clock a little bit, went for a bit of a gallop down the wing, botched the kick massively, but then got forward and helped out again. It was good to see him go for a run up the ground. He showed a bit of pace there, Broady, didn't he?
Oh, that kick was absolute Barry.
But he followed it up at least. He didn't just wander back, so that was good to see. The 2 votes, I went for Jacob Hopper, much for the reasons you mentioned earlier. He did get some good disposals, but the reason why I didn't have him higher was because he probably wasn't as efficient as we would have liked. CB went for Vlosten, Grock went for Hopper, Tiggs went for Luke Trainer, and you went for Jack Ross.
Yeah, I probably went for Jack Ross for the reasons mentioned by yourself. And as I said in the main podcast, I actually thought in traffic he was our best midfielder on the weekend. His ability to negotiate through a section without having a disposal was as good, if not better, than anyone else in the side. Well, it was better than anyone else in our side.
Yeah.
Even including Adelaide. Like, he's always had a good step. He's had a couple of slightly off games this year, but he's had a lot more really good games. He's becoming a good, consistent C/B grade midfielder, and the decisions he makes with those steps instead of panic, I think is really important, because there's so much of us in our youth that is dumping it. The ability to compose yourself in the pressure, I really like that about him on the weekend. A long-winded way of saying it, but I think I got the.
I don't think we'll maybe see this, but I would love to see how he would develop as a player over a season if he was left in the midfield for the entire season. I think that's his strong point. And, you mentioned he's kind of hovering on that C to B. Could he then hover from B to B plus or B to A if he was left as a midfield the entire year?
He'll never be an A grader, but he could be a solid B grader if he was left there. Yes, I agree. And this is a terrible thing to say, and I apologise in advance almost. He's almost like a Timu version of Prestia. Prestia is amazing in traffic.
Yeah.
Prestia is amazing in traffic, holding the ball, not even faking a handball, but somehow coming out the other side.
Yeah, he's good at that.
Ross and Edwards was great at that, right? Ross is really good at that, and I think we have, as a side, underutilised that. And I think that really stood out on the weekend when he did play in the middle.
Yeah, agree. I like him there. More of it, please. And for the one vote, I've gone for Jasper Alga, as did Grock, Tiggs, and yourself. And CB went for Nathan Broad. But tell us a bit about what your thoughts were on Jasper.
He just looks like a footballer. With the family at my point where I'm at, I don't get to see the VFL as often. And I've heard you guys talk about this bloke and, talk about what he can do this and what he can do that. It was a bit of a slow start, but he just gets into the right positions. He's got good hands. He makes good decisions. He's sneaky tough. Like that mark against the goalpost, that was all under pressure and stuff. Like he had to. It was a contested stuff. So no, I really. He just looks like a natural footballer.
He does. And I did have to smile when I think I saw Mark Stevens' post-game tweet that he was an absolute steal at the pick we got him at. And look, I don't think Jasper will ever be your 20 possession half forward, but I don't think he has to be. He's going to be one of those very impactful possession players and knows where the goals are. And usually when he did something with it, something okay or good come of it. And that's going to shine through more as we progress and get better as a side too. But the fact he was able to kick 2 goals instantaneously gave us a different point of difference that we're able to find another avenue to kick a goal, which we are craving and desperately crying out for. So well done to Jasper. More of that, please.
He's very smart. Can I ask a question? Yeah. How tall is he?
I'm not too sure what his height is. We can look it up quickly. What do we got? Oh, no, my app shit itself. Hang on.
That's all right. I'm not
sure. He plays taller than what he is, though. That's the one thing I've noticed from his VFL games, that he has taken marks, like contested marks, against much taller players because his positioning, his IQ is actually quite good, and he gets to the right spots. On the weekend we saw, I think early on, he got out-muscled by, I don't know who it was for the Crows, but that's just a physical difference in size, it is what it is. But I like what I see of Jasper.
I know he's not as tall as, or I don't think he's as tall as this bloke. He gave me a little bit of Jack Gunson vibes.
And that's the type of forward we need.
Yeah, he's that sneaky, clever. It's not about his physical size. It's about his brain. And he gave me slightly Gunson vibes on the weekend. And
yeah,
I actually meant to look up how tall Gunson was. And
I reckon he'd be shorter than Gunston.
Yeah, about 2-3 inches, about 6 centimetres shorter, I reckon, maybe.
Yeah, I reckon so. But to your point, and this is why Gunston's still effective now, because he's a smart runner, knows where to move, and that's why he's still able to kick 7 goals or whatever he got on the weekend.
Yeah.
And I think we've all been saying for ages we need that Gunston, Fritsch, Myercheck type forward that's not key position, that's not small, but can do all the in-between stuff. And I reckon that Jasper could be that guy. And like we said before, he's the youngest player in the competition. So for him to come in and kick those 2 goals, I thought he's the youngest player in the competition. He was born really, really late in December.
Is he really? I didn't know that. Yeah, what?
Yeah. So that for me, that makes it a bit more impressive that he was able to have that kind of impact against a quality side in a time that we're struggling in. And yeah, to be able to do what he did, I thought was really good.
Cool.
But there you go. They are the votes for this week. We're not showing the leaderboard. We will reveal that probably in the last round. I guess we'll do some type of show to reveal a winner. But yeah, they're the votes for this week. Hope you enjoyed it. Let us know in the comments who are your 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And we will reconvene next week after the Cats game, and we'll see what votes come of that. So until then, go Tigers.
Go Tigers.